After 6 years, Fortnite Remix secretly changed this item and nobody noticed. But what about a location that'll cause the memories to flood back? Let's head over to the infamous waterfall. Everyone used to dive off this thing and immediately meet their doom.
You serious?
Except this has been secretly changed in Fortnite Remix. Now, if you swim up the waterfall and realize somebody's placed a floor, something different will happen. Come on, Epic, what gives? And recently we got the addition of the coolest mythic of Chapter 5, the Rap God minigun. Except if you feel like it, you could secretly turn this into a regular old minigun. Just turn off the copyrighted sounds, and not only will the audio be silent, it even removes the lyrics. In one of the weirdest changes, we all logged into the new season and found sentry cameras all over places like the dog house. Obviously, it was a core part of the Chapter 2 areas, and disguising as a henchman would usually get you straight through. Except, after just 24 hours, Fortnite secretly removed the cameras and we still don't know why. Now, one of the biggest differences between Remix and Chapter 2 is vehicles. Not only were cars nowhere to be found in the original Spy season, but it also meant you couldn't find car mods like Chonker's tires. Well, both are in Remix right now, with a chance of getting a truck with Chonkers already on it. Now, you probably didn't realize that an entire movement feature was removed. Barely anyone used this in Chapter 5, but clambering was a way to let you basically parkour. It was almost never practical in real games, and I think Fortnite realized that when designing the Remix map, removing any chance of clambering. Maybe it'll be back in Chapter 6, but I don't think we'll see the mythic goldfish again. You see, in our last video, we covered how Fortnite secretly brought back this item, and considering it is one of the rarest weapons in Fortnite history, barely anyone noticed. But did you know it's not that rare anymore? Epic have changed the odds of finding one, toning it down from the ridiculous 1 in a million chance to just 1 in 10,000. Nice. But some updates have to be demanded by fans. When Sabrina Carpenter's espresso emote came out, it was one of the most anticipated dances of Chapter 5, only for Epic to immediately ruin it. Everyone was asking why they would speed up such an iconic song. They completely missed the mark. And in a shocking turn of events, Fortnite ended up removing the emote from the shop just hours later. Pretty rare for Backlash to make a new cosmetic just vanish like that. And all this happened a few weeks ago. Now there's an update. When the store refreshed, there it was, the fixed espresso dance. And if we're talking about firsts, there's a feature that has remained untouched for half a decade. I'm talking about supply drops. Now sure, they've been vaulted and changed throughout the years, but the core mechanic itself has been exactly the same until today. Fortnite secretly changed these to interact with water. Before, it would just kind of land on the river and not move, but now, best get your running shoes on because you gotta chase it. You can't just get in a car, especially because they're all usable now. You might be saying, Tommy, they were always usable, but actually you might have forgotten that when cars first dropped in Chapter 2, some of them randomly had boots on the wheels. One of the strangest decisions at the time would always be frustrating when you got excited to hop in a car, only for it to be a prop instead. Lucky for us, Epic knew how ridiculous this was and ended up removing the feature entirely, guaranteeing it doesn't happen in Remix either. That is just one of the weirdest decisions they've made. This time around, they brought back crash pads to Remix, and players already think they're useless, but wait until you hear about the way they made them even worse. Now, you can only pick up crash pads in a stack of 1. Already hard to find, what's the point? Things keep getting weirder because slurpfish could only be found in vending machines. I'm not making this up. You can search every cooler in the game or go fishing for 7 straight hours. You ain't finding a slurpfish. What isn't cool is the removal of one of the best Chapter 2 Easter eggs. Let's head on over to Fancy View, where you can find a pretty standard house with nothing too out of the ordinary. Except this used to be the scene of a Ferris Bueller reference. It was super famous as we watched a car roll straight down the mountain, get picked up by a crane, which then also fell over, and the cycle continued. It was hilarious, and sadly those memories have been erased for the Remix Island. Probably because the car doesn't have enough gas to start. Even though the map is littered with vehicles right now, most of us keep running out of fuel because gas stations are basically non-existent. There's only a handful of them on the map, because back in the Spy season, there weren't many to begin with. Now, some hidden changes are amazing, like Epic updating cars to secretly give you materials. You can now farm them, and you'll receive metal again, which was never possible in Chapter 5. Now, it's way more satisfying to destroy your own vehicle. If you're choosing to use a grappler instead of cars, you'll be pleased to hear they are now better than ever. In Chapter 5, they had 10 charges, and in the original Chapter 2, they had 15. Now for Remix, they have been upgraded to 20 charges, letting you get around easier than ever. Oh, and make sure to look around the map for some callbacks to the first ever season of the chapter. Most of the island has been themed around Season 2, yet there are ego outposts on the map which were quickly bulldozed back in 2020, and well, they've survived this time around, and it's pretty nice to see them after all these years. Sadly, we won't be able to see the Grumpy Green's bushes. In the past, this was a simple Easter egg that made a face, and not only did Fortnite delete the bushes, you can see the remnants of it still in the dirt. If anything, this is sadder than if nothing was here at all. Something you probably didn't notice disappearing is gold. It wasn't introduced until Season 5, so it makes sense that it's not here now either. It also means the whole system of talking with NPCs, purchasing items and services has been removed for now. The only NPCs left are Sky and the bosses if you're wearing a disguise. You still can't trade with them, but if you're lucky, you might just get a gift. This also means that vending machines have been quietly reverted back to materials again. We last saw this in OG, and now it's back, making you choose between 3 items by pickaxing the screen before giving away your resources to buy it. Now I know what you're thinking, so how do they work in Zero Build? Well, they don't. In fact, they simply don't exist. Even if you do play build mode and find a vending machine, you'll still have to spend all your mats to get something. Back in 2020, the limit was set at $9.99 for every material, which meant spending $500 for a legendary item was still worth it. But since then, the limit has been halved. Means buying something for one of these means you lose so much more than before. One Chapter 5 feature that carried over is the new consumables. We all know that med kits and shields now apply as you use them, even letting you move while you do it. Not only has this change stayed for Remix, but it's also been added to the Chug Jug. Now, still heals the same, making you wait a whole 15 seconds, but hey, at least you can move while doing it. Not the only switch to consumables, because coolers are now worse than ever. These didn't even exist in Chapter 2, so it's already a big change, but they also used to give fish. Now, you open them up, they only drop veggies. Pretty useless change considering they used to be great for slurp fish and floppers, but now it's not worth it. Even the Midas touch has changed. Obviously, he's mixed with Meowscles, but that doesn't mean he has the same iconic power as the original. At first, it won't work, but look closely and you'll realize it's actually applied as wrap to the gun. Now, as you get a limbs, the gold will increase until the entire weapon is covered. The best part, it even stays when you drop it. Perhaps one of the most loved changes is the removal of projectile weapons. Finally, after a year of using guns with drop-off and having to relearn our aim, we have gone back to hit scan. Thanks to Chapter 2, all our weapons are exactly how we remember, with Epic leaving their old design. Whether this will carry over to Chapter 6 after Remix ends, we don't know. But after the community feedback, Epic has gotta know which one we prefer. And if there is one vehicle they know we love, it's Choppas. These things have been teased for years to return, from helipads appearing, being shown off in trailers, and even updated specially for seasons, all for them to never get involved. Finally, Remix has brought an excuse for Epic to bring them back, only to be trolled again. If you dropped at the weather station for the first day, you'd find the only Choppa spawn on the entire map. Great secret, until Epic found out and vaulted it. It forced us to wait an extra week to finally get our hands on them. One of the strangest changes this season is the magical llamas. Not only have these been changed to an M&M design, but they're also spawning in the middle of matches. Players have been in late game, only to turn around and see a llama that wasn't there 5 seconds ago. It's pretty weird, but also a great resupply in predicting the next circle. Now you might have loaded into a match and seen Spawn Island looks exactly like it did back in Chapter 2, and while you're not wrong, there is actually a difference. This place used to have a traffic control tower, which led to a giant underground base for Shadow. It's not all either. The other side of the building had a secret elevator to an entire base for Ghost next door. For some reason, this is completely missing in Remix, and maybe these factions are now just celebrities and not at war. Not the only strange change players have noticed, because Epic has somehow placed a single hut the wrong way. Over at Misty Meadows, one of the wooden fishing cabins is no longer facing the water. In fact, the dock doesn't even make sense now. How could they perfectly replicate the old map, but turn one hut 90 degrees? One difference that does make sense though is the addition of extra zip lines across across the map. Just like in OG, Epic had to account for zero-build players by adding zip lines and ascenders to mountains. So if you're revisiting your favorite locations from 2020 and feel like a wire was never there, you're not going crazy. You're also not alone in thinking the bridges are a lot more dangerous. Driving around the map, whenever you come to a concrete bridge, you'll notice there's no railings on the side. Before, these would have a walkway and guardrail, but now they just look weird. One of the most needed changes for Remix actually happened after launch. From day one, players noticed that the purple pump was everywhere. I mean everywhere. Epic has now fixed this, secretly dropping a patch, making it rarer, while also increasing the chance of finding lower quality pumps. Another big change is how the season will work. Last time we got OG, we went through a new season every single week, changing the weapons, items, even the map. This time around, it's the same deal, but when we reach Season 3, it's not getting flooded. It's a map a lot of players are looking forward to, but with the Grotto and Shark needing to stay on the map for the rappers, it'll be interesting to see how they make the flood work. You also won't be seeing your SUV skins in BR for a while either. Chapter 2 is taking us back in time before these ever existed. While you can still apply your sports cars to the Whiplash, the Trail Smasher SUV is nowhere to be seen. So if you bought the Behemoth or Cybertruck, you can't even use them in Battle Royale until next season. The first time an entire cosmetic type has been removed from BR. The same goes for another Chapter 5 feature that players were just getting used to. Weapons mods were introduced last December, and now for Remix they have been completely removed to make room for classic weapons once more. Most people are pretty happy about this, and I can't blame them. Just wouldn't feel like Chapter 2 with crazy mods on everything. One new change isn't exclusively for the season though. In fact, it'll only get better as Chapter 6 begins. The Music Pass for Festival's 6th season has now been revamped to use XP instead of points, meaning you can progress through it in any mode. So if you still want the SNOOP skin but aren't a fan of Festival, you just need 25 levels to unlock it, meaning most people completed it in just a day. When Chapter 6 drops, the same will happen to both the Battle Pass and LEGO, all in an effort for Epic to push new modes without you being overwhelmed and unable to complete everything. Those are things secretly changed or removed in Fortnite Remix. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.